Hello and welcome to Unity Arts Ministry, the Creative Spirit Gathering. I am Reverend Andrea Scott Brown, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be hosting today and sharing information with you in Reverend Jen's absence. So let's jump in today, because today we've been exploring this idea of surface design in many different ways. And we're going to talk today about texture, specifically around texture. And we're exploring these creative principles because they relate to art and they relate to life, right? And we're talking about this journaling is as a form of expression. And we have an opportunity to share this together because of Unity Arts Ministry. And I want to talk, before I jump into the lesson, about an opportunity for us to share our gifts and our hearts and our monetary donations also with Unity Arts Ministry, because it is a nonprofit organization and providing a creative path for spiritual living. And that's what we get to do here and explore together. This program is made possible through your financial support, and you can do that by going to unityartsministry.org to learn how you can give. This is a great opportunity to be together and to share all of our blessings and all of our gifts. So thank you very much. Today, again, we're going to be exploring texture because this is also near and dear to my heart. When I started to think about the opportunity to be with you today and talking about different types of surface design, the first thing that we did in this in January for talking about surface design was different types of surfaces, right? We explored ways in which we can look at the page and what does the page contain, or what kinds of things can we put on it to change and alter the surface. And as I was thinking about that, the most important thing for me was around texture. And what is it that how does texture show up in our lives? So when we think about texture as an element, and we look around in life, it's everywhere, right? And I looked at the definition of texture. Let me share that with you. It is the feel, appearance, or consistency of a surface or substance. So when I first thought about this idea of texture, I thought, oh, something that's rough and building up, or something that we're adding to and making more, building different planes on a surface. And then I thought, well, wait a second, when you actually look at the definition of texture, smooth is also a texture, right? and so it's everything in between, this idea of smooth and almost like glass. If you think about glass and you can think of the texture of glass. What does it mean when you look around and look at the texture of a wall? Sometimes we want to have smooth surface. Sometimes we want it to have more bumpy appearance, or when we touch it, and it's very tactile. We think about surface when we think about texture, we think about like being able to touch it and get an experience from that feeling. And as I started to think about that, also in life, I was thinking about hair. Okay, how much do people pay to have texture in their hair? Right? These are things that we want to build up. And then what does it feel like to think about texture in our thought? To have a smooth or peaceful, when we were experiencing our music together this morning, think about what was going on in your mind were you moving with the music? You know, how does that add to a textural experience in our body, in our mind, in our spirit? There's so many ways to explore. And when I started thinking about this last night, when I decided that I was going to be able to support our time together today, I went to my art studio and I said, okay, if I wanted to explore this idea of texture, what would I do? And again, first thing I'm thinking of is building up, and what does it, how can I explore this idea of texture? And so I thought, how does this experience, how do I want the viewer to experience my work? And I love, have you ever gone to an art museum and you see signs everywhere and it says, do not touch? Right? How many people really just want to go and touch it? Right? And then there are some places that are experiential and they allow you to touch. And I think, oh wait, can I really, am I allowed to? Can I touch it? Can I do that? And so I value that very much. And I guess I am a very tactile person when I think about it. You know, how many people can relate to that? Do you feel that you're more tactile than, certainly many of us are visual. We're talking about art, but when we put the two together, that's when we get texture, right? That's when we get this idea of building a more multi-dimensional experience. That's what I love. Okay, so this is what I came up with last night as I built this page, and I'll tell you more about it a little bit later. I'm trying to get it all in screen. And if you can see, there's dimension. Actually, it looks more dimensional. It's hard to see that in the camera. Okay, there we go. See the leaves behind, and then the butterflies and the letters. They all have texture, and they're up on the page. They have dimension and they have this feeling. And then if you look too, and you think about this idea of visual texture, there's color. And when you talk about the other ideas that we've discussed through this month in January of surface design, we first started talking about the surface itself, and then we were talking about the hold on a second, the placement of things. That's right, the placement, and where do you place things on the page? What gives it weight? Is it at the top or at the bottom? And so think about that with relation to texture, and you're adding like multiple levels and layers of our work. And then we talked last week about grouping. And when we group like items together, or multiple things together that maybe they're not like together, but they're in the same location on a page, what does that look like, and how does it mean? How do they relate to each other? So that's one thing that came to mind, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what went into that in a second. But I started to think about, how do we do this on the page or in our art? What makes things textural? And I went back to, this is one of my favorite pieces of art that I've done. And this one is this cute little whimsical piece that not only has texture, but it is interactive. So these pieces come off and you can change his hat. So it gives it texture because there's the bow and then the hats and the pieces, and there's even Velcro on here to give it more dimension and give it more interest. And that's something that, thank you, it's so fun. This is, and if you even look in the background and you look more closely, there's texture in there, there's paper underneath that gives it dimension. This is torn paper that was ripped off, and then there's like book pages behind, and then layers on top that give it not only physical but visual texture. Yeah, collage, any sort of collage will give an item texture, right? Here's another piece that is behind glass. So it's the smooth texture we were talking about before, but each of these little pieces are individual pieces that are cut up together to make this shape of the heart. So all of the items that go into this give it texture. We've got layers of the paper. We've got the shapes that give it visual interest and texture, and then even the smoothness of the glass. When you're allowed to touch the art, right, you can feel the difference of each of them. Another piece I wanted to share with you is, this is a little bit bigger, and I'm gonna have to pull, this is actually on canvas. And this is an interesting story. This is a canvas that I had that, goodness, 20 or more years ago, probably more than that, maybe even 30 years ago. I had this canvas and I had some dimensional paint. Do you remember the dimensional paint in the tubes? And you could draw and make dot, now there's dot art and things like that. I took those, I just felt like I wanted to put something on a canvas. And if you look behind, you'll see these little shapes, like odd dimensional shapes. And that's what was created with that dimensional paint. And this canvas, just a plain canvas, was sitting for years and years and years with just that on it. And it had texture, but it didn't look very exciting. It didn't look like it wasn't cohesive. So putting all of these elements together, I decided one day I grabbed the canvas and I said, I'm going to make something that's Rothko-like, if you know that artist. And I just started putting more paint and more blending colors together. And it turned out somewhat like a bullseye, I guess, but it's blended, and the paint itself even has texture. And it made it interesting. It made it like, oh, there's something underneath there. There's something in there. Why is that? What are the pieces? What is the meaning behind that? And what is the relationship of the texture behind to the colors and the shapes above? So as you're thinking about texture and what that means to you, think about all of the features that we've talked about before: the placement, the relationship, the color, and explore and have fun with texture. And this is kind of what I'm going to go back to. Some other things I wanted to share as well, just ways in which you can add texture to. This is, many of you know I love paper bags, right? I love paper bag journals. And this is the handle of a paper bag. I opened it up, took it off, opened it up, and then just painted it. And it has all of this, such an interesting texture to it because it once was folded up and was a handle of a bag. And I've used this type of piece as an element in some of my other work. This is one of the pieces this is packing material that I received in a package, and it's actually in my piece from last night over here on the left. This shape right here was just torn piece of that dark brown paper. Another piece that I've done recently, I talked before about this idea of creating or covering up the words. We've done that a lot in this group. This was about the fear of the page and how to get through that, or releasing the idea of fear behind actually creating art, the blank page, etc. And this is what I came up with to cover it up and making it beautiful. And it started to have this idea of texture and color and movement. And I clustered some flowers here that were torn pieces, and it just became much more desirable, right? And I grabbed some found pieces that were on my around my desk, and put those on there too, to add the words. I love adding words to artwork, and it can both give it texture as well as interest and put meaning behind it. All right, so I've talked about like combining some of the ideas that we've explored here for surface design, but I want to now talk about this idea of letting it all go and just exploring one, because the opportunity for each one of these lessons taken individually gives us this opportunity of exploration and just seeing what one of these ideas, how it plays out, what we can learn from it, what we can incorporate into new pieces of art, and what we can learn about our own talents and our own skills and our own techniques and abilities. This piece came together because I wanted to do that, just explore texture. It's not about the outcome, right? It's not about the end result. It's about the exploration in this group. It's about the opportunity to explore, to see where the page takes us. And I invite you to look around your space and grab things that have texture or that invite maybe some tactile exploration of some kind. These are the leaves that were in the piece, and they're very colorful. They were in a package, and I took them and added them to the page and then gessoed over them, so that became just texture as opposed to the color that they are. Does that make sense? So making it all about the texture, I covered up the design of the surface and just kept the texture. And then I added some different kinds of texture. So this is liquid acrylics, fluid acrylics. You know, that's a smooth type of paint, I guess. And then I didn't actually use it in this one, but if you think about a thicker, more heavy bodied acrylic, that if you chose to use paint, they're very different in the way that they act and react and the different type of texture that they create. So exploring different types of materials and mediums is one way. And then pick up a piece of paper, tear it, crumple it, see how that plays into how it shows up on the page, and then what it means to you behind the scenes. The other piece here I wanted to share with you, these are little tiny, the butterflies on here, they're little tiny pieces of cork or of bark, and they're cut out shapes of bark. So bringing in nature in some way is also a way of combining life texture and art texture. How does that come together in your own life? What does that mean to you? So what is around you? What are you thinking of? What has texture in your life? I'll tell you that there's been a lot of texture in my life, and some of it not so fun, some of it exciting. Today is the first day of school for my daughter going back to college, and her last semester in college. Like, that is a big transition. Tomorrow is the first day of the last semester of my son in high school. And these are developing the texture of my life. And these are ways in which I get to explore on the page for me. And so what does that mean for you? What's happening in your own life that allows you to explore and is just a jumping off point to be able to experiment, enjoy the process, and see what you can build, see what you can create on your own page. And it starts with the surface itself. So in that light, I want to end our lesson by giving us a time of meditation, of exploration, of internal exploration to see where is the texture in our little lives. So if you would, please settle yourself in your chair. Give yourself the opportunity to rest in this space. And if you need to move around, adjust your body, please do so and just relax. I invite you to close your eyes if that's comfortable. Sink into your chair and just relax and be here and notice. Notice without the movement, without the visual stimulation. Notice your breath. Take a big deep breath in and let it out. Let the noise just relax. Let the noise settle. Allow your breath to guide you into a place of calm and peace in this space together. With the next breath in, take in the peace. And with the release, let go of any tension. And one big deep breath in, one last breath in. And when you're ready, release it and let your shoulders drop. Let your mind settle. As you continue to just notice your breath, move into your body. Feel the space in your heart. What is it sharing with you today? What is the area that is most on your heart today? How can you surround those feelings with love, knowing you are supported today in this space? And as you notice your attention, allow it to fall into your solar plexus, the area just above your belly button. Feel that energy in your solar plexus. Feel this powerhouse within your body. What do you notice? What is speaking to you today? As you explore the ideas, the feelings, the sensations within your body in this moment, let us enjoy a moment of silence together. As you can continue to explore these ideas and these feelings, let us come back to this space together. Flutter your eyes, wiggle your fingers, recognize the seat that you're sitting in. And come back to this space ready to explore, ready to put on the page the feelings, the emotions, and the ideas of texture in our time together today. And so it is.